Farmington's new public library has opened at 2101 Farmington Avenue on the east side of town. Of course, there's lots of exciting stuff there for everybody, but when children enter their section, they'll pass through a special set of doors into a world of dreams, dragons, bugs, and books, a title bestowed upon the 8-foot portals by Farmington artist Bev Taylor. She designed them, and her husband Tom built the wooden panels that weigh 230 pounds each. Together they carved designs into them, and then Bev added calligraphy.
I got, I guess, what most artists would call the dream commission, approached by the library people here, and I asked what the specifics were, and there were no specifics. In a way that's good, in a way that's bad. When you're an artist and your mind just takes off from you sometimes, the world is whatever you can imagine.
And what an imagining she presented to the head of the Farmington Public Library, Karen McFeeters, who offered the Taylors the door commission in January 2003. Bev paused to remember that moment one Saturday this summer when she reached the three-quarter point of the project. Light streamed through the big front windows of the old Farmington Lumber Company, now part gallery and part studio for several local artists, including Bev. The brightness illuminated the workspace holding the doors.
One other parameter was that I asked Karen if she would run past the architect. I really would like to see these doors become a book, because there's 2 doors, so it would be ideal if they could hinge in the middle so they could open and close just like a real book does instead of hinging from the sides. They could still look like a book, but this way they actually become a book.
So now when the children's sections open at the Farmington Public Library, the book closes on its center pole. People see the spine or the pages pressed together, depending on whether they're inside or outside the kids' special place. And when the room's closed, the book spreads open, covered with Celtic knots and medieval illuminations.
We want it to look like an old, ancient, leather-bound book. We're going to distress the wood and make it look like old sort of pop-marked leather. The lettering will be raised, it will be in gold. So it will look like one of these wonderful old books that you take off the shelf and open up, and then magical things happen. We have a 4-foot-tall dragon who has great glass eyes. He'll be painted fluorescent green, and he's sitting on a mushroom reading a book. And also on the mushroom is a little tiny bug carved out of walnut, and he's reading a book. And the title of his book is The Joy of Reading with Compound Eyes. And here's my original drawing. So we start with Once Upon a Time. There's a giant castle and a big ship down in the water. Could hold pirates, could hold gold, who knows, but it's parked at the base of the castle. All of this in-between part will be lettered with the famous lines from the children's literature. One of my favorite ones is a quote from Shel Silverstein that says, "If you are a dreamer, come in."
Bev's husband Tom glued the doors together, building up the pages in 2-inch strips.
He's my mathematician, scientist person, so he calculated what this curve needed to be. Actually, we worked this out so that it did in fact look like an open book when it was open. First time we did it, the doors didn't close. The curve was too steep on them, like this. And so we went back and then he figured mathematically how thick each one of these boards needed to be, and then he did a whole lot of sanding, and he got this whole curve perfectly smooth, and then I went in and drew the letters and all of the designs off on that perfectly smooth board. And it's fun to see it transpire. You start with a 2-dimensional design laid out on a flat piece of wood, and then you take your knives and your chisels and your pounding mallets and your pounding tools, and things just start to emerge. And the joy of working with wood is that it's such a warm medium, and it's very tactile. And we recognize this, that a lot of people will want to touch these doors. So we want the designs to be smooth and friendly and very exciting. Kids can trace these patterns of these Celtic knots with their fingers, rub their hands over the rough scales of the dragon and the smoothness of the mushroom. So it will be a very tactile experience for them as they enter to go hear a story about dragons or spaceships or whatever.
The children's room door project quickly became more complicated than either Tom or Bev Taylor anticipated, but they quickly made it a labor of love. Now their wooden book doors welcome all who come to the Farmington Public Library. A good place to sit and dream of everything, from dishes to dragons and flowers to photography, on Farmington Avenue on the east side of town.